Hello, I'm Trevor Getz. I'm a historian, and I'm one of the co-creators of HistoryChat, and specifically the African Times AI Augmented Archive. Artificial intelligence holds the promise of advances that can improve the lives of people everywhere, whether through medical research or predictive energy generation. However, in its current highly centralized form, the AI landscape reproduces the exclusion of knowledge that's generated by underserved communities, the same exclusions that we find in earlier forms of media. Can we imagine an AI landscape that reverses these exclusions, helping to achieve a more equitable future for this technology and ensuring that individuals and communities are adequately represented and benefiting from AI? This is a future envisioned by Stanford's Open Virtual Assistant Lab, OVAL, which is developing a public AI assistant to worldwide knowledge, a whole range of tools for working with data to advance global education and accelerate knowledge discovery. Within this range, there's HistoryChat, a thought partner for exploring perspectives and sentiments of communities that are frequently ignored in history. Any corpus of digital materials that's loaded into a HistoryChat frame gives you the ability to browse that body of information for new research ideas, dynamically search even large corpus to gather information about a topic, a concept, a person, or an event, to virtually chat with the writers and editors of that corpus through a conversational agent framework, and even to build sophisticated reports using the Storm large language model. So the first instance of HistoryChat uses the African Times, a newspaper composed mainly of correspondence from interlocutors in West Africa, London, and the Caribbean. This source represented a unique, large set of perspectives on world and local events in the period. And it's one of the most significant African and African diasporic publications of the late 19th century. It's a sizable corpus consisting of over 200 issues of the newspaper, published monthly over 17 years, and covering many topics from the perspective of an Anglophone Black Atlantic community. Over the past few months, students and researchers at Stanford University, San Francisco State University, and Tulane University have used HistoryChat to do research into topics of African and diasporic history. Most of the research falls into three research buckets. First, research that goes into entirely new topics that nobody's ever looked at before, such as an event in which a local leader was executed in Sierra Leone and the subsequent protests against British rule that arose. Second, a bucket that is new insights into things that we've already started to study, like the impact of industrialization of agriculture or attempts to establish independent states. And thirdly, scholarship that adds African perspectives to modify what we already know about some large events, whether it's the Franco-Prussian War or abolitionism or even the temperance movement. So here's how you can use it. So first of all, if you look at the front page of HistoryChat's the African Times interface, you're going to see four buttons: browse, search, chat, and something that says Storm right now, but is soon going to say augmented research and report. So let's start by saying you're looking for some new research ideas. Why not use the browse function to find out what kind of stuff there is out there even to look at, to identify some research topics, to uncover some patterns, to maybe gestate some new ideas. So for example, I've been working on 1865 hearings of the British Parliament. So I'm going to go ahead and go down to 1865. I'm really interested just to see whether the editors of the African Times maybe saw something different than the British Parliament did in these hearings that were about the future of the west coast of Africa. And indeed, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that I could look at. Looks like there's some articles on the future of the British West African settlements. This over here just says West Coast of Africa. Got to wonder if that's anything about it. Gold Coast economy. But also down here, I happen to find something interesting that's called the alleged essential inferiority of the Negro and Lord Alfred Churchill on the Negro's place in nature. I've always been interested in racism and how it emerges, so I might be interested in looking at some of these, taking a look at the article itself. And here we've used OCR augmented by AI to actually transliterate the articles, and we've gone back and we've checked them for accuracy. And, as you might think, there's a lot of stuff about race and racism in this newspaper, but also a lot of pushback against scientific racism, ideas of racism. This is by somebody named Jamie Fox Wilson. I don't know who that is, and if I wanted, I could search and see whether Jamie Fox Wilson maybe published something else. But also, I see a lot of pushback against racism here that I'm really interested in. So I'm going to go back then. I'm going to go back and I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to search. And I've got to think of my search terms. Now, again, search is LLM augmented, it uses AI. So, interestingly, I don't even think eugenics was a word that had been invented at the time. But if I put in eugenics into my search here, I bet you it's going to pull up some articles about racism. And indeed, it pulls up that article I was just looking at. Some other articles that seem to be about race. Here's one critical of the treatment of African Americans in the United States. There's one about race and the future of Africa, citing Edward Blyden, which is fantastic. How could an inferior race have produced Toussaint Louverture? The Africa problem, fantastic stuff. Now, I could have put in there race, I could have put in a bunch of other stuff. I can even put sentences in there that are questions. Here's one on the book of James Africanus Horton, which is in part about race. I know about that book already. There's a lot of other stuff in here. And if I want to, I can then start chatting with the newspaper. Now, we've worked on chat to make sure that there are no hallucinations, to make sure, as much as we can, to make sure that our chat works as well as possible. Actually starting with WikiChat, which is a larger project of Oval, and it'll be set to Wikipedia in 25 languages as the corpus. We're going to change the corpus to the African Times. And when we do, you'll see there's some chats we've already had with the African Times here. I'm just going to start this new chat by saying, what does the African Times have to say about the state of racism and race relations in, well, let's just leave it like that. Give me 4 examples, please. Let's see what it does here. First of all, it's going to take a little while to think. It's going to go through the whole thing. So we've got advocating against oppression and tyranny, asserting Negroes with the white are made of one blood. And we've got citations here as well. Citation in this case is actually a letter written to the African Times, it looks like, by Livingston, which is pretty amazing, actually, as a source, but it's not everything I want to know. Can you give some examples of writing about racism towards people of African descent in the Americas, for example? So let's augment that by, putting our range over with the Americas. See if it picks up that we're talking about the United States. We have several other texts here as well. The Bishop of Sierra Leone criticized the historical context of Black people being forcibly transported to the Americas. That's a really interesting one. Here's another that's really interesting. Reports from the Times illustrating the violent racism being suffered by African Americans, and on and on. And we could go like this and chat quite a bit. Now, you can also eventually just generate a report that will try to pull everything together. I will talk to you about the reports in another video. We hope you'll try out HistoryChat and use it to explore the uncommon, often ignored perspectives held in the African Times. Of course, there's a lot of need to talk and think about how to make this kind of archive an effective research partner, about the ethics of how to use it, and about who should own and maintain archives like this. But we think that this is the first instance of a potentially powerful tool for historians, for students, and for community members to work with bodies of evidence and sources in their possession. We'd love to talk to you more about your experiences using HistoryChat. And if you're interested in the technology, you can contact me through my email address, which is available online.